Hello, Matt. Welcome to the pre-show hangout for Isekai Realms. I'm here lurking in the darkness, and others are lurking in their various places. It is raining quite heavily here in Seattle, and I can't get the lighting right in my office. So, darkness it is. Yeah.
Helps if my mic is on for the stream part. It's rainy in
Woo!
Olympia too. So
Hopefully, you can all hear us.
yeah, they should be able to. It's just my
We were
mic.
talking about.
If not, let us know in the chat. And
Yeah, my mic. Given that I'm the one streaming this, my mic is on a different feed than everyone else's audio. So yeah.
We were just talking about wildly inappropriate stuff for the pre-game hangout because we're a PG-13 stream and not a hard R stream. So,
Yep.
what wholesome but not entirely wholesome stuff do we have to chat about?
Maybe
Not a
this is the wrong
hard R.
show for talking about entirely wholesome stuff, given the content of the episode.
yeah,
Brian says we can.
I kind of feel like we pushed
The
the
past-
edges on
the last
PG-13
episode?
on this a little bit.
On the last episode?
I'm sorry, on this
Well,
upcoming
people
one.
will.
On this upcoming episode.
Yeah, this upcoming episode will be interesting. No spoilers. Folks
Right.
will find out.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Have
Things
some
happen.
Yep.
things.
So the last episode,
hmm
I mean, we can't really talk too much about the upcoming episode without major spoilers.
Yeah.
We could say a
So the
little-
last episode had the technical glitch, right? That's the one that had the technical glitch in the middle.
Yeah.
So let me paint a picture for you what happened in the technical glitch.
Please do.
This is one of those moments where everybody in the party was like, Randy, WTF, what are you doing? You're off the reservation. You're acting so crazy. But I want to explain. I had a twofold, in my mind, perfect reason. So we're walking through the city and we see some orphans making their way towards us. Very clearly, they're going to attempt to like pickpocket us or whatever, bump into us. And I'm thinking, Chris is going to roll on a table and take one of our magic items or something like that, you know? So I'm like, I'm going to head this off at the pass. So I greet them and basically offer them my fake diversion pouch that has a couple coins and whatever and some cherry bread in it, and offer them more if they will, in fact, like guide us where we know. Finnan already knows where we're going, but I asked them to guide us and to keep an eye out for pickpockets and such, basically turning what would have potentially lost us an item into, protecting us from those kind of situations. That was my first thought. My second thought was, wait a second, Jamal just lost her entire acting troupe, and here's some kids who are like ravenously chewing down her cherry bread, and I bet like all it would take is for her to offer them cherry bread and they would happily stay in her place, get them off the street, and could become her acting troupe because we're not going to be in the city forever. Those were my thoughts. So
all this
it
is
worked
going
out
on in his head.
somewhat
He's
Yeah,
playing
yeah, yeah.
4D chess
Yes.
with Chris's game.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, hi, kids. And they're like, what?
we have places to be,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
engage the potential pickpockets. I want to move around them and avoid them.
And now we're going into probably a dangerous situation, and now we have children following us in tow.
I thought, Randy, that you were trying to recruit your very own Baker Street irregular.
I mean, it was sort of that. Yeah.
Which would have
a little
made
bit.
sense too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the plan literally broke reality.
Yeah. It literally broke. So then
Yeah.
that whole scene
Yeah.
afterwards, Chris is like, oh, like
We didn't
didn't record. Yeah. We need
Yeah.
to like, it's like,
So we loaded a
Yeah.
previous save file
yeah.
and started again.
Yeah.
Well-
Put the floppy disk in the Commodore 64, waited 10 minutes for it to load, and then resumed. Yeah.
So at this
Yeah.
point, I'm not really sure. Do we have an allied army of children or not?
No,
We
they
might have
got chased
three,
away.
or
What-
they took off.
Yeah, they got chased away when things got
Yeah.
scary. They were like, nope, we out.
I
Well,
mean, that's very logical.
seemingly pick a fight with the most powerful house in town.
How very
Yeah.
street urchin of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they didn't think that your copper pieces were worth that kind of
Fair
a
enough.
occasion.
And
But
And I think I went out like briefly, like when we had one of our everybody's resting, what do you want to do moments. I was like, well, I'll take a quick spin around, see if I spot them. But Chris said, no, you do not spot them. So they are out of the picture.
If I recall correctly, you either went out to go look for them after dark or near dark, which if you're a 5 to 8-year-old living on the streets in Westgate, it's not a good idea to be out at night. They come out at night, mostly.
That's right. You might end up working in a certain kitchen, which we will potentially learn. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
things we can talk about that aren't super spoilery.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that I find interesting about this particular episode, the one that everyone's about to watch. One of them is an NPC who was alluded to at the conclusion of the last episode, so you have a sense of who you might be talking about.
Yeah.
And the second is a location, which to me in many ways is like an NPC, right? Like a famous enough spot is almost like a character of its own. If you go to Undermountain, it's supposed to have a certain feel to it, right? And so when you're dealing with a famous location, you sort of try to give that location its own character. And so I'll be interested to hear when we have our next hangout, and to the extent that you feel you can say anything about it during this hangout, what you all thought of that experience, being to a place that was iconic, meeting someone that was iconic.
In this past episode, the Thylavar?
This would be either this episode now or that's about to broadcast, without getting into great detail. But you're going to an iconic location.
At this point, do we know that we're going to that location? I mean, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
it's in the title of the episode.
it's in the title of the episode.
So Elminster was really different than I expected him to be. Like, I didn't expect him to, like, to speak with a Russian accent to begin with.
He was much more cut than I expected.
Yeah. And
like, clearly dude did not drink water for like a week before we met him. So
right. And why he kept pulling rabbits out of hats, I couldn't figure that out. Like, was that like a nod to something? Is there like lore that I'm not aware? But anyway, you'll see in the episode. Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was entertaining to meet this person. And I thought we've met Elminster before. So I thought seeing Chris's take on Elminster was interesting. And we get to meet Elminster basically in a timeline before any of our, like we've seen in our other games. So seeing an earlier iteration of that character, I think was cool.
I feel like you are overpromising.
Yeah, you're like overselling.
Like everybody is like,
Everybody's
oh,
like,
good,
"It's the
Elminster's gonna
Elminster."
show up.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
it's almost an alliteration
Elminster.
for.
Okay.
Almost. Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
I mean, corporate says to find the difference between these pictures. This is the same picture.
Hey,
Okay, it wasn't Elminster. Sorry, but
we do not know if it is Elminster. It could be.
That's
Elminster.
true.
It could be.
It-
It could.
Any NPC you're interacting with could be Elminster for all you know.
can I
Could
just
be
say?
Elminster.
Can I go on the
I could be
record and
Elminster.
say I hope to God that wasn't actually Elminster.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
It's fair.
point. I can
This will make more sense when we're part. Yeah.
Yeah.
in about an hour and a half. It'll make a lot more sense.
I mean, what are we gonna do? Have Ed guest on the show? Don't be ridiculous.
That'll never happen. Anyways,
Never happen.
Never.
Anyway,
No.
so yeah, we go to the Purple Lady. That's where we go. It's in the title of the. It's not much of a spoiler. I'm spoiling it like 20 minutes.
the last episode you
And we talked about it last episode.
Right. Right.
I'm
So, and it's interesting to go to the Purple Lady about 100 years before we saw it in the Westgate Irregulars campaign. It is very similar in some ways and very different in some other ways, partly because of who's running it. Anyway, but you'll see.
It's now
I
called
did-
the Purple Nurple Lady in this time. And
I did
Prone.
That'd be a very different vibe. Yeah.
I did a lot of research for it in the sense that I read what was available on it, which is not a lot really.
It's true.
And then I watched a couple of your episodes from Westgate Irregulars wherein you detail it, right? Particularly the one where the players visit it for the very first time, because usually the first time you go to a place, you're going to get the greatest level of detail. And if you were to place those episodes up, this episode and that episode up against each other, you would notice certain direct similarities in the
Yeah.
description et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely a version of the same place. But as you point out, because this is not just an adventure, but a time travel adventure, sort of all my favorites put together, get a differing, you get the history of the place under, as you point out, different management.
Yeah.
But I want to think that the experience of being in a place like that, because it's also a fest hall, which
Oh.
carries with its very own vibe, right?
Yeah.
Which is a word that the realms created for brothel.
Yep.
Yep, that's what it means.
Alas, though, this
And we-
this iteration of the Purple Lady didn't have the foresight to have a cute drow Dompier bartender.
True.
we can't all have that.
Well, Shay has not been
Yeah.
born yet in the
No,
course of
she
our
has.
game.
She has not. That is true.
So she's not going to show up, everybody.
The bartender is
Probably.
definitely less charismatic than Shay. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
I don't know. He's missing that certain flair. Anyway,
Yeah, no pineapple ale from that.
so Chris,
I forgot
had this
about that.
restriction, and he couldn't have awesome Shay show up and serve us drinks. So he had to come up with his own sort of different bartender, which is fine. It was great.
Fine. It's fine. It's fine.
If it makes you feel
All
any
fine.
better, my bartender's canonical.
Yeah. It does actually make me feel better. Anyway,
Fair.
but yeah, it was a fun experience. There's also, I was going to say, a certain difference in NPC trolling of PCs between when I used it and when you used it.
Absolutely.
That is not to say that either of us did it more. We just do it differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look forward to it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's definitely a different. It's got a different vibe under the 1372 management.
It is highly memorable. And just to put a small little teaser out there, when you're a writer and you've written books in the Forgotten Realms, and then you play a game in which you are yourself in the Forgotten Realms, and you encounter a character that you created in the Forgotten Realms, and certain things happen, it's a surreal experience. So look forward to it. It's going to be fun.
I think
yeah.
that's one of what's most interesting about any kind of a play yourself game in a world in which
In a world.
you've got right in a world. We've got to hire you to do the intros for the whatchamacallit.
That was good.
That was pretty good. We've got a talent in the voice acting department. But in a world that you're either intimately connected to because you've been a creator in that world, or in a world that you're intimately familiar with because you're just a super fan for that world. I think I say something in the description that's going to go up on YouTube for this about meeting your heroes, right? And it's definitely a very interesting experience. Everybody wants to do it, right? Like, oh, if I'm going to travel back in time to any one time in human history, I'm going to pick a time where, some of my favorite historical characters are alive, personages are alive, and I want to meet them. But what is it like to really meet them? You have this expectation of what it's like, but it's very different. And looking at it like as a DM, right, or an author's perspective, it's kind of the same thing. When you're a DM, you're an author. When you're an author, you're kind of like a DM in a way, because you're creating the world and the dialogue and the characters. And the thing is, you can't not know what they're going to do or say because you are responsible for it. But when you have a chance as a DM to play in your game, right?
We've got raiders.
Hey,
or you have
Welcome,
a
Raiders.
whole passel of them. Nice. Welcome, everybody.
cool.
Welcome.
Cool.
If you are an author and you have a chance to interact with one of your characters, it gives you a chance to do a thing that you just don't normally get the chance to do. And it's exciting because you don't know what's going to happen next. That's been my experience with playing. When I get the rare opportunity to play, it doesn't happen very often in my game. I've occasionally had friends take over and run a session or two and make major changes to my game world because I had to promise them that kind of creative freedom in order to get them to run it. And so I imagine it must be a little bit like that. But I liked your original tweet about it, Eric, back in the mists of time when you had that original tweet. I thought that was pretty good.
I would like to note that those radical changes are canonical.
Oh yeah.
and he's kept them to this day, even though that was a very long time ago.
Oh wow.
That was the devil that I made. So
Yep.
with the devil.
Prepare for some fun moments and some cringe. It's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. There's some flailing. It's all in good fun. I enjoyed myself.
It is definitely the most R-rated probably episode.
Nope.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's PG-13.
It's
Okay,
PG-13 stuff with plenty. No spoilers.
Look, I have my back turned the whole time. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Aspiring paladin, right?
stuff gets glossed over heavily. Let's put it that way.
Fade to black. Yeah,
Is that it?
But we don't fade to black.
that's true.
No.
don't.
No.
We
don't.
definitely don't.
We don't. We gloss. It's a totally different thing.
Walks
we use peripheral vision.
PG.
Is what we do. Like you have a range of vision. And
Audio
I turn
cues.
away, and you could just hear some things, and occasionally see some things thrown past me.
Sure. Yeah.
So I wanted to bring up one more thing, and then I'm done with the things I wanted to bring up. There was something that you pointed out. I want to say maybe episode 2, Eric, and you, Randy, captured it in your recap of episode 2, wherein you talked about a conversation that you had, Eric, with Ed some time ago. And that provoked conversation between you and Allie about that conversation with Ed. And I think you even may have even used the phrase, it's all Ed's fault. I'd like you to expand upon that conversation, if you might. Do you know the one I'm referencing?
You're gonna have to remind me.
Sorry,
I just put my Mass Effect Omni tool on
No,
to try and recall
no reason in particular.
what you're talking about.
No.
No reason in particular.
No.
Is that helping you with your light situation? It was about.
I don't know. Is it helping with the light
It
situation?
is actually. You're much better lit now.
It's making it really cool. The Omni tool has a blade too.
Oh wow, that is.
So Mass Effect 3 then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome.
I love the.
Anyway,
Omni
the
Blade.
chat
Anyway.
was talking about it, so I needed to put it on because I have the hoodie on.
Okay, fair.
Anyway.
You got a fair point there. When you're ready to write the sequel, Eric, to Mass Effect 4 or 5, whatever they're up to now, let me know.
Oh man, if only.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The conversation was about something to the effect of whether or not authors writing in a world like the Forgotten Realms are writing fiction, or if they're just channeling their own imagination leaking through from that world into their own subconscious. That ringing any bell?
Oh, ringing a lot of bells for me. That's kind of been a deeper conceit of kind of the realms itself, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
I don't really remember what we established in the course of that conversation, but yeah, I think it's kind of both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
That some of it is that you have this thing that you're doing. You're telling a story. It's a work of art that you're producing, and on a certain amount of that is your skill and your training and your instincts and your experience, and you're just putting that in. But some of it, when you're writing in a setting that you've played in and that you love and that you know a lot about, it's just like the things that you've wanted to be part of the setting, you get the chance to make them part of the setting. And that itself is a pretty cool, empowering experience. It's like halfway between fan fiction and wholly original fiction.
Mhm.
I mean, we kind of say that us Forgotten Realms writers, or really anybody who's writing in an established IP, is basically a professional fan fiction writer. And to an extent, that's true. I mean, if you're a fan of the setting, that's what you're doing. You're writing fiction in that setting that you love. But at the same time, we're also producing a product for a company that's paying us to do it. So there's only so much that you can get in. And, the stuff that I've written is not exactly what I want, but it's close. Like I got most of what I wanted into it.
Yeah.
The stuff that Ed has published is not exactly what he wanted either, because, partly because he writes erotica to get chopped out so that the editors won't chop out the stuff he really wants, and then that can sneak through.
Is that actually true?
That is
Yes.
actually true. That's like how movies get rated. You know, if you want your R movie to have a bunch of like stuff in it, you put worse stuff in so that the ratings board will flag the worst stuff, and then you can keep the bad stuff, right?
Yep.
Anyway,
Kind of like this
apparently,
episode.
kind of like this episode. Apparently, the editors in the TSR offices, when they got his manuscripts, would stand up on their desks, and they would always be women, all the editors, right? And they'd be reading dramatic readings of these long sex scenes that Ed would write into his Realms novels. And immediately they'd be cut out, right? And you just tear off the pages, because this is in the days when you had the white printed
Dot
pages with
matrix,
the
yeah.
dot matrix paper.
Factor paper.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
amazing.
And he would ship these huge books. Every book that Ed has written, as far as I know, was at least twice as long before it actually got published, and it was full of just smut forever. And then all of that gets hacked out, and then he keeps the other stuff. So
I think that was Robert Jordan's, like, he thought that was what was going to happen. Like, I just included a whole ton of stuff that doesn't need to be there, and
just a
you'll
lot
cut
of
it all out
description.
and leave.
I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody
And
will
then
cut
no
it
one
out.
cut it
and
out.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, apparently several of the scenes that Ed wrote they did slip through. Like stuff that he thought would never actually get published did end up getting published. So he won't
Yeah.
say exactly which ones. He also won't tell us which Harlequin romance novel he wrote, but you know, it's fine. There are certain mysteries that can go unresolved.
Don't need to be.
You know,
Yeah.
Ed Greenwood has a Patreon now. You should all go check it out.
He
Oh, yeah,
does, in fact.
absolutely.
I'm sure a link will appear somewhere in the chat at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ed does have a Patreon where he just drops Realms lore and interviews. You can check him out, some of his interviews on YouTube, if you want to preview what you're going to get from his Patreon. But if you join
There'll
his
be no
Patreon,
dramatic readings of erotica on the free.
probably not. Yeah, you can then go on the Discord and find all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
The Dungeon Scholars have a Discord as well, where you can find fiction and stuff from us, as well as just the really, really stupid memes that I share all the time. But yeah, it's pretty good too. The link is in the doobly doo down below us.
It's almost a pity the Dungeon Scholars don't have a Patreon, and I'm saying that very seriously.
You know what? We've talked about it, and we just haven't actually implemented it.
they
So
have a
you know,
Ko-Fi. So or
we
whatever it
do
is.
have a Ko-Fi, so you
That's
can
true.
send us some monies as you like. We appreciate that. I mean, it's very helpful for keeping the channel running. We do have expenses. The more people contribute, the more cool art we have. It basically all goes to cool art.
It's
And
a-
occasionally buying lunches and dinners for the guys from Norse Foundry. So that's it. That's where our
some dice to
expenses
giveaways.
go. No, the dice, the dice they donate to us and we give away. I don't think we have a giveaway today. We should really get one
No.
of those set up at some point.
Yeah, we should.
Like, I got some dice to give away. Okay, maybe next week. Okay.
Maybe next
Okay.
week. They do.
When
they do
speaking
some
of
amazing
giveaways,
work, though.
the Idle Champions code, if you haven't used it from last week, is probably still
Yep.
good, right?
Yep.
Right, Allie?
Yep,
Yep.
it is
So,
good.
yeah,
It is good until this Wednesday when we get a new one. So you know,
Get yourself a chest.
grab it.
If you're not playing Idle Champions, you probably should be. It's pretty cool. So
And I think you definitely want to, because episode 11, which is closing in on us, we're now within the month in which it will air.
that's true.
Mhm.
Sort of climactic episode for the season. I think as far as giveaways and stuff, I think we have a number of items that we might try to give away during that particular episode, as a way of rounding book one to a conclusion.
That'd be
So
neat.
we should think about that strategically as to how we want to do it. But I think it's a good idea. But I'm glad you guys are having a fun time with this. Part
Oh,
of
yeah.
what I was trying to say there was that there's a degree to which you know, the collective unconscious is channeled when you're writing something like this, and a lot of what I write plot wise comes from a single scene. Like there'll be a thing that happens in my mind very frequently as I'm driving home. I work pretty far from my office, and so when I'm on rides back at the end of the day from my office, I'll just sort of, my mind will wander, and I'll get an image of a particular scene in my mind, a thing that happens. And then you have to create everything that would lead to it, right? plot wise. But that struck a chord with me when Ed was describing, his first encounter with a couple of the Seven Sisters, how he had this image in his mind of them, and then had to explain, okay, well, who are they, and what is going on in the background. And I think that there's a degree to which, I don't know if I want to call it Cthulhian or Jungian or whatever you want to call it, but I think there's a degree to which that sort of thing lurks within all of our collective unconscious. When it comes to these sorts of things,
or sometimes just in our bedroom closet. Whatever.
Yes. Sometimes we have a wardrobe. Is that what you're trying to tell us, Randy?
Yep.
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 You've got a portal to the realms, Randy. You best turn it over.
Right?
All right.
I want it, but yeah.
We got to take off, go to our advertising, and then to the show. So enjoy the fun and cringy moments to come. This was a great episode. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks, everybody. See you on the other side.
Bye.